In this video, I will give my opinion of shooting high school basketball with the Nikon Z8 with the Nikkor 85mm 1.8 Z-mount lens, and also some with the Nikkor 40mm 2.0 Z-mount. Now, years ago, when I worked for a weekly newspaper in Philadelphia, I shot a lot of high school basketball, and even some college and a few pro games. Since that time, I only shot a few games for the high school I shoot senior portraits for. The last game I shot was 2 years ago, so I was a little rusty. There were both a ladies' and men's game scheduled recently, one right after the other, so I thought I would try out the Z8 with the 85 1.8 and even give the 40mm a try. The Z8 was set for 15 frames per second with continuous focus, with wide, small AF area, with subject detection set to people. I used the shutter button for focus, not back button focus, and I moved the focus point with the joystick. I shot RAW with standard picture control, shutter priority, and matrix metering, and auto white balance set to keep white. Now, Nikon matrix metering most of the time is excellent, but with bright backgrounds and white jerseys, it's not perfect. And for all of these photos, I had dialed in plus 2/3 stop exposure compensation. And that seemed to work out pretty good. I still needed, on some of the shots, when I brought them into Lightroom, to give some additional exposure comp on the plus side. So all these shots you're going to see right now are with the 85 1.8. Most of them were shot with the 85 1.8. Apertures varied, 1.8, 2, 2.2. I don't think there was anything beyond f4. My shutter speed was 1/1000th of a second for everything. And I tried to keep the focus box on the face of the subject, and it seemed to work out really well. Even in this case here, the ball, you think might have been fooled by the ball or her hand, but it really kept focus, especially on the eyes. I noticed it really did pick up the eyes, and I just had my finger down on the shutter release, firing away at 15 frames a second, and I guess I could have went to 20, but I had a ton of images to go through shooting at 15. I can't imagine. I mean, it would have been a lot more, obviously, if I had been at 20 frames a second. That's one of the bad things about shooting at such a high frame rate, is that you are going to have a lot of images to go through. But I thought 15 worked out good for basketball. It gave me some really nice sequences, as you see here with the young lady driving to the basket. Sharpness on that 85 is excellent. Well, I already knew that. It's a great, sharp, contrasty lens. And the autofocus, I really haven't used it much in action situations, but I was very impressed with the autofocus. I knew the autofocus on the Z8 was great, and the 85 can keep up at, wide open or a little stop down. So then I went to the 40. I just wanted to see what that could do. I think a 40 is a little wide for basketball. So on most of these shots, I cropped a good bit, but that's one of the nice things with a 45 megapixel camera, in that you can crop. So this was at the foul line and I was right under the basket. So I'm, a little over 15 feet away, and I needed to crop this in a little bit. And actually these are closer than the foul line here, it looks like. But the 40 worked out good as well. I was shooting wide open, 2.2, maybe a little, another third of a stop down a little bit, but not as quick autofocus, I would say, as the 85, but still pretty darn good. I think a little bit longer lens. A 50 1.8 would be really nice. Now the men's game started, and I kept the 40 on the camera. And I didn't shoot that much with the 40 with the guys. And by this time, it was a little darker in the gym. There's some high windows in the gym, as you can see on the upper left in this picture. For the ladies' game, there was a lot of sun coming through. Actually, it created a bit of a problem on the opposite side of the court. It was really bright, and when that was in the frame, that's when I really noticed that I was getting some underexposure. So it also was darker right under the basket. So that's it for the 40 for the guys game. And then I went back to the 85 and I decided to move my position. For a lot of the pictures, I was under the basket, either to the left or the right of the basket. Sometimes I was standing, sometimes I was kneeling. And then I decided to go along the baseline, just in front of the bleachers on the right side of the basket, or actually the left side if you were looking towards the basket. And I got these shots, shooting back towards the basket with the 85. And again, it worked out really good. The autofocus, as long as you keep that focus box on the subject, on the player that you decide to follow, it works out good. I mean, even with his head pointed up, it still nailed the focus, even in a crowd. Not always, okay? Sometimes it did miss and pick up another player. But I think that was more me than the camera. So I don't know. I like to shoot another game and give it a shot again. I got better as the game went on. I was able to keep that focus point on the person, the player that I chose. And even here, I mean, the focus stayed on the prep charter guy, the guy in the white jersey. And it worked out really well. So I think the Z8 with the 85 1.8 is great for basketball. I think 15 frames a second gives you a lot to choose from. And I don't think you need a higher frame rate. And so a lot of these shots with the guys, I should have said earlier, were shot at ISO of 5,000. But I know from using the Z8 now for almost a year that I could successfully shoot at 5,000 or even higher. And I needed to do nothing in Lightroom concerning noise. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I come out with a new video every Wednesday at 11 a.m. And recently I also am publishing a new video every Monday morning at 11 a.m. as well. If you have any questions about this video or any comments, please leave them in the comments below. You can email me your questions, or like I said, leave them in the comments. I'm happy to answer any questions. So I will talk to you next time.